Thank you to Home Title Lock for sponsoring this episode.
Really? There went the accumulator I was waiting on. There's a couple more of them. Oh, that was a big mistake.
Hello and welcome to the shop. I'm Jared and this is the Questionable Garage. And you guys have been asking for some Toyota Lexus content. So check this out. We have ourselves a Lexus GX470, kind of similar to the Sequoia in the Toyota lineup. It's not a direct crossover. It's probably one of the more unique of the Lexus vehicles. And honestly, I wasn't even gonna do a video on it. I hope that all of you have someone like this in your life, a friend that it doesn't matter the time of day. If you call them, they will drop and do whatever they have to try to help you out. Well, this belongs to a friend like that. Scotty's always been there for me. Well, he has recently had some pretty substantial surgery, and this is his wife's vehicle where she drives the daughter around. So it has to be reliable and it has to be good. Kind of like in my family, I drive very weird, questionable junk, and the wife is in something new and modern that is gonna pretty much not leave her stranded, or at least you hope that's the case. So Scotty reached out to me and just said, hey, brakes are a little worn on this, can you take a look at them and put a set of brake pads on it? Not an exciting video, but what is kind of exciting, all of you mechanics, you have experienced it. Anyone who does this for a living, you get your repair order and on it says intermittent problem. Has to be this, has to be that. All these weird scenarios in order for the car to act up. And it does not matter what the car is, what the problem is. The moment your butt touches the seat, it is the best running car ever made. It does not fail. I worked in the dealership for 5+ years. I worked in independence. A customer will come in with a complaint and the car is perfect. So Scotty commented that a little bit of brake noise, it kind of pulls some while braking, and occasionally the transmission acts a little weird. Well, I went for a ride with Scotty, and he made the comment, man, it's never been this bad. And then I left his house to come up to the shop and almost had to call a tow truck. A small miracle happened. The transmission, the part, not only misbehaved like they experienced, it went full broken, so we can fix it. And the fix is something I'm actually really excited to do with you guys. Along with a couple other little touch-up things. Got to fix the coolant link. We do have to fix those brakes. Also, we're going to talk a little bit about diagnosing pulls while braking as well, because that was another one of his big concerns. But the biggest thing we're going to get to do is we're going to drop the brain center out of this Toyota A750F. We are going to do the most common fixes that you need to do to get this thing behaving correctly. It's throwing line pressure codes, flaring, doing a lot of weird things, and there are kits you can buy to go through and fix it. It's one of those things, you can do it, you just have to take your time and pay attention, and we're gonna do it together, so hopefully this can be a little bit of a visual reference for you, because I went online and I didn't see much. So maybe this is a little bit of DIY, it's gonna help you with your A750F, it's going to be in your Sequoias, Land Cruisers, Toyotas, pretty much all generations of the bigger truck Toyotas ran this transmission, and they all end up having this problem. So I'm really excited to share that with you. So let's get to work. Recently, I fell victim to bank fraud, and it cost me a shocking $9,000. Modern thieves aren't just picking pockets anymore. They're exploiting digital documents to steal from you without ever setting foot in your home. And that's where it gets even scarier when it comes to home title theft. Did you know a criminal can take ownership of your home with a single form filed at the county office? With one document, they can claim ownership of your home. With your title in hand, they can take out loans against the value of your home and then walk away with the cash, leaving you to deal with the mess. And the worst part, when they're gone, the banks come after you for their money. But that's why I turned to Home Title Lock and their triple lock protection. It's more than just monitoring, they offer real protection. They scan multiple data sources 24/7 and alert you to any urgent changes to your home title or mortgage status. And if the worst happens and you become a victim of title fraud, their US-based restoration team steps in, working with lawyers and experts to restore your title. Think about it. Most of us protect our identity and credit with monitoring services, but credit and identity monitoring doesn't protect your most valuable asset, your home. You can sign up today at hometitlelock.com/garage30 and use garage30 for 30 days of protection free. And you'll get a comprehensive title history report to make sure you're not already a victim. Once again, hometitlelock.com/garage30 or use that link in the description box below. Protect yourself, protect your house. Home Title Lock.
Well, step one, we'll go ahead and get the fluid out. We don't have to, but it definitely will make for less of a mess if you drain your transmission first. Also, what's kind of nice when you're pulling the pan on these, you don't have to worry about a dipstick. That also makes it a pain in the butt to set fluid level. Toyota came out with what they call world standard fluid, which was actually only Toyota. No world involved, but it was their introduction to the dipstickless transmission world, which I don't get, honestly. Most companies now don't even give you engine oil dipsticks, which makes no sense. Because believe it or not, transmission fluid is not a lifetime fluid. It does need a change. By them calling it lifetime fluid is just them basically saying, we don't believe in that 500,000 mile Toyota anymore. Or the 40,000 mile BMWs. The 5,000 mile Stellantis Jeeps. We just expect you to replace it repeatedly. The biggest issue you run on these transmissions is you set by temperature and counting drips and everything to make sure it sits at the right level. Even though you say, you know, a drip per second or assign a real value, people still can count that a little different. Or there's the fact that on these early ones, Toyota realized they weren't leaving enough fluid in it, because as the fluid gets hot, it expands. So they actually changed the temperature at which you're supposed to check fluid at, but it's not like super easy information to get a hold of. There's our little magic box, our magic brain. Ow. See how many more times I can hit my head right on that exact same thing. This is where teardown tables are nice. It's up to you if you want to wear gloves or not. I'm not your dad. I probably should be, but I'm not. The difference in these modern computer magic boxes, and the older, real, just pure magic box, where it's all springs and valves and balls and magic to make the transmission shift. These have solenoids, computers, and stuff that help them. The old stuff, where again, it's just pure magic. Usually there's a service connector right there, but not today. There's no fun way of pulling a valve body. You're gonna wear transmission fluid. I'm just glad it's not horrible burnt trans fluid. There she goes. Okay. Man, that's annoying. Even doing my best, just trying to be careful. Still just getting an absolute fluid bath. Ugh. Oh, come on. Come on. Really? There went the accumulator I was waiting on. There's a couple more of them. What did I get wrong here? Aside from everything. Oh, man. There's that ball I was talking about. Oh boy, there's a snap ring. I'm cooked. Oh, that was a big mistake. Remove your rod before dropping. or you're gonna be in a really bad position like me. So, if you are pulling that valve body, don't be a dummy. It is just a simple E-clip, and you can remove that shift rod, your park flow control. That'll make your life a whole lot better. Now, when we're looking at this thing close, we have all of our control solenoids here. Line pressure, shift control, lockup. They do a lot of things that the old boxes are incredibly magical because they did it without all the electronics. But that is also why we now have lockup and a lot better transmission control. So there's still a whole lot of magic to go on in here, but the big thing we are going to do, now that they're nice and covered in transmission fluid, we're going to install some transgo parts, because this was setting a line pressure to low code. Very, very common for these transmissions. The solenoids will go out, and then you also do have some wear that happens inside these valve bodies, and all of our transgo parts are designed to fix that. Now, when you're getting these codes and you do all this work, it's an 85% success rate. There's a chance you've got too much wear, too much material gone from the transmission to be able to save it. So when you pull your pan, if there's just a giant thick sludge, it's probably worn beyond the part that this is worth doing. But if it's just kind of a little bit of material, just a normal amount of higher mileage fluid, go ahead and do the change. So we're gonna get this thing fully stripped down, and we're gonna go through the different steps and repairs and upgrades that we can do to this valve body to get this Lexus shifting a little bit better. All right, and then anytime you're taking this stuff out, do your best to lay it out in some type of organization that makes sense to you. So that way you can make sure you put everything back where it goes. Also, there's small screens on all of these parts. You want to make sure they're clean. As each one of these come out, they were working fine, those particular ones, so you're just checking them for some scoring, making sure nothing looks off there. And again, the fact we're not seeing any of these like just fully clogged with junk is a good sign. Now, when you start unbolting this is when you start running into a lot of balls. So, be careful, pay attention. Okay, we got the valve plate. Okay, there are some balls in here. They're blue balls, or at least they look like they're blue. But one thing we'll need to do is see how well the balls still seal against those plates. So you can kind of see there how it's beaten open compared to this side. You can have a divider plate wear out to the point that it'll no longer seal from the balls banging against it. Be mature, guys. The reason automatic transmissions are called magic, these things are controlled by solenoids and check valves and springs and fluid going through all of these passages controlled by these little guys here to then make magical clutches and sun gears do what they're supposed to. It's magic. That's just the easiest way to look at it. It's mystical, magical things. Lift up gently. And if I remember, which I don't always do, this is the one we're going to do a lot of modifying to. So now we have the balls here resting. Now the trick is, do I drop them back on that half, or do we leave them sit in the separator plate for now? Also, you have to watch, some companies use different size balls, so you want to make sure you don't put your balls in the wrong hole, because then they can blow through and get stuck. It's definitely dirty. I feel like a really good cleaning is going to get us back in a good spot. So again, what we're looking for is any excessive deformation, and this is just visual. You're looking for things that just look wrong, which again, if you don't do a ton of these things, you may not know what looks wrong, but at the same time, you start looking around and you see chunks of metal or a crack in it, that's the big thing we're hunting here. This, while scary, because there are so many little pieces that any one of them wrong can cause major problems, take your time, take pictures if you need to, lay it out in a way that makes sense for you, and you can do this. Also, you get really good discounts using my discount code. It's in the description below. I love the shop clean. I kind of spray it and use it on just about everything. So for you Rust Belt people, the Thunderbolt has been really amazing. I was doing work on Honda Rousey, and from sitting outside, the rear brakes completely locked up. And all I did was just coat it with some Thunderbolt, and it came right back around. And again, they did what I love in a company. They don't just say, here's money, say you like our stuff. They say, here's our stuff, do you like it? Okay, let's talk. All you marketing people, I get it, there's influencers out there that'll sell anything. They don't care about integrity or their viewers, but I really try not to be one of those guys, and I really appreciate that attitude of, our stuff's good, we believe in it, try it, then we'll talk. I might need to use my discount code myself here soon and get more shop clean. This transmission's going to use up all of it. So we've got our Transgo TRG SKA 750 WTA with tools. Tools aren't super expensive part of it, but the first time you buy one, you definitely do want to go ahead and get the tools, because it's going to keep it centered correctly, so that way you don't drill crooked and ruin your very expensive transmission. And then it comes with all these funny little parts that on their own make absolutely no sense. We got that first kit. We're also got the A750 Boost. And then, of course, the AWACC accumulator piston with seal. So, what's nice, confirm, identify which one you're working with. We're enlarging 2 holes. It's to help fluid drain out quicker or react or move faster. So I've got these 2 marked in Sharpie. Those are the 2 holes they want you to enlarge with an 055 drill bit, this little guy here. Now you may think to yourself, that's not very big, does it really matter? It doesn't seem like much, but you're making a whole lot of change for fluid to go through. And again, take your time to match up your pictures. We've laid it out, we confirmed all of our holes based on its diagram, and then I marked them with a Sharpie. Now I'll go get my drill. Boom. All right, we got some holes. Page 3, upper valve body, bottom view. All right, I'm just, again, visual confirmation, that's it. And we have to drill through several walls of this. So, 1, 2. So, it shows you counting out each wall. All right, so again, based on that diagram we were talking about, we have our 4 walls marked. So as soon as we punch through that one, we stop. This is that guide to make sure you go straight. So you slide that in until it stops. Make sure your drill bit and your shaft are lubed, and you use it. Slow speeds on your drill. Don't do a high-speed drill. You don't want to go too far and accidentally puncture that wall, because then you're buying a valve body. And yeah, this little guy, we'll have to polish him up just a hair so it sits a little better, because we're replacing that and an insert. They change it up to this style where you actually have a lock. We might have to machine that. We'll find out in a second, but this ends up leaking a lot, and that is how they fix it. Really smart design. Now, the point of no return. Slow it down. 4. Boom. All right, so now we go to the reamer. Reamer just kind of there to do your final size, make sure your hole is right, and a little bit of lube on things. So it's captive and trapped. Same thing, go until it reaches the final hole. Once you get your hole reamed, you can have a new drink. Alright, so we'll match up to our picture. That is the whole old set. So yes, this is our next round, our replacement for that. And that goes bushing this way with the solenoid valve inside, new orange spring, and a different retainer housing. So we're changing to this style from that style. Pretty substantial change, I do believe. So this is one of your real common wear out parts, the boost pressure valve. So because we were in the medium setting, we do have the option to go ahead and run the gold shim, and that's just going to give us maximum pressure, which for a higher mileage transmission, it's not a bad thing. We're going to go ahead and run the high pressure. Oh yeah, so, see that? Just an aluminum versus steel with a seal. So again, as fluid air ages, as this aluminum gets slight grooves in it, she's just gonna leak on you. Rattling around, hopefully still where they're supposed to be. I mean, they should be technically, right? But we'll go through, we'll pull up all our torque specs, get them torqued in, get our last little spring and ball and top back in its hole. Alright guys, we'll pick you up going back in the car.
Well, we have made it to the next day. What I did last night, from the last thing that you saw, is I went ahead and filled it with fluid, the transmission with fluid. And the way I like to do these, especially when we are changing fluid types. Now, the book says Toyota World Standard. Don't put anything but Toyota World Standard in it. I'm a huge fan of Valvoline Multi-ATF. They don't sponsor the channel anymore. It's a really good transmission fluid that I've had good luck with. I will tell you, follow the book, but if you want to be like me and a renegade and use a really good fluid that you can get cheaper, you need to make sure you flush everything out. That's why you saw us flushing the cooler. One, to make sure we had good fluid in it, and two, to push as much of the old fluid out as possible. So the other thing that you do with that, it's tempting when you go to fill these transmissions, they have the 24 millimeter fill port on the side like a manual. And you fill that until it comes out the top. If you do that and send it, you have grossly overfilled your transmission and you're gonna cause problems. I filled it to that point, went ahead and did a first start and just quick gear run through and then let it sit. Because that is going to dissolve or kind of dilute most of the old fluid to the point that we are gonna get more of it out when we do our level check this morning and final level set on this transmission. So, by the book, world standard only. I think you'll be fine if you didn't want to go by the book. Also by the book, they tell you to check this transmission originally at like 115 degrees Fahrenheit. It's now 97 to 105 or 36 to 40 degrees Celsius. So what we need to do is we got to start it up. We're going to run it through each of the gears, put it back into park. We've got our scan tool set here, ready to go with our temperatures, so we can have that dangling. Then we'll pick the car up and take the little check port out where it is gonna leak a lot of fluid to start, and then it'll slow down, and hopefully by the time we're in temperature range, we're gonna see that one drip every second. So, I'll get started on that.
So again, we're expecting a lot of fluid because she's intentionally very over full. So that's going to drain for a while. We're going to keep watching our scan tool. We're up to 25. And again, 36 to 40 Celsius, 95, really 97 to 105. That's where you want to be. Also, not that it means much because the car is unloaded in the air, but putting it into reverse, it snapped in way quicker than it has been doing. Also, I didn't have it quite as way overfull as I thought. Just a reasonable amount overfull. Remember guys, we don't know how to use dipsticks, but we can pat our head, rub our belly, make sure the car is perfectly level, have a scan tool or a paper clip with somebody sitting in the dash to watch the flashes for the temperatures, but not knowing that it's technically the wrong temperature range, and count drips. We can do that, but no dipsticks. That is far too complicated, cannot be trusted. This is the future. All right, we're up to 26 degrees Celsius, 10 more degrees to go. And you see right there that pace, drip, drip, drip. That is pretty much where you want to be. It's also a bummer how sensitive, for the most part, Toyota transmissions, they've had pretty good success as long as you put something in them. They're fairly robust transmissions. This is really kind of the start of the weird issues with pressures and temperatures and weird fluid adding and the pressure solenoids going bad. I'd say this is like watching paint dry, but it's more like watching fluid drip. Now, if you're just doing a service on your Toyota World Standard transmission, a fairly common method is capture all the fluid that comes out and put that much back in. But that also relies, has you depending on the fact you've not lost fluid at any point, and that it was set right the first time. So this isn't fun, but it's the right way to make sure your expensive transmission keeps behaving. And to think, originally this was just going to be a pad slapper. I'm going to help a friend out, just get it to go on a little bit further on, and we're doing major transmission repair, we're doing some suspension work, we're doing some brake work. Always better to help fix your friend's car instead of sleeping with their fiance, I do say. So, reasons you do not want an overfilled transmission. Same reason you don't want too much oil in your engine. If you get up into the moving parts, the crankshaft or the spinning clutches, and your oil is making contact with that, what will end up happening is as it spins and hits it, it's actually frothing it and introducing air. Now, a lot of fluids are designed with anti-foaming agents to stop that from happening, but they can only do so much. So if you have too much fluid in there, as that transmission's turning around, it's turning everything into air, and air is not a very good lubricant or hydraulic fluid to apply your clutches. So you're gonna end up leading into slipping and hard component damage. And you'll notice, had we gone and put it in when it was doing that grip earlier, it's probably leaked another pint or so out. Again, doesn't seem like much, but they've got these things dialed in to such an exact, silly preciseness that as big of a pain in the butt this is, it's the right way to do it. So that way, when we go to drive it, we know, fluid-wise, we've done everything right. Almost 36 degrees. 2.4 degrees to go. And there we go. All right, let's talk about the brakes real quick. One of the other concerns that Scotty had, well, really the first reason I was looking at the car for him, was he knew the brake pads were getting low, and when he would step on the brakes, the car would pull. It's not unusual that brakes can cause a pull, because obviously you have something pinching on and slowing down a rotor. The brake pad's grabbing hold of the brake rotor. It's going to change how things are rotating and can cause the car to steer and veer a little bit if you've got a problem with it. There's two types of pulls you want to pay attention to when you hit your brakes, and it's going to help you decide, are you looking at a suspension problem or a braking problem? Generally speaking, a brake pull, something in the hydraulic system, is going to be a steady pull, something dragging you a certain way at like a fairly consistent pace. It'll be unsettling because obviously the car should be going straight when you hit the brake pedal, but generally it's going to be predictable and behave the same most every time. So let's say on one of your front sliding calipers, a pin is stuck, so when you step on the brakes, that pad or that caliper doesn't really do anything, but the left side does, and your right side is the one that's stuck. Well, suddenly the left side's slowing down, you're going to pull to the left in a fairly consistent manner. Now, if you hit the brakes, you tap the brakes, and it feels like a jackrabbit jumping to avoid a hawk diving down to, get lunch, and it's just all over the place, not predictable and generally very scary, you're potentially likely strongly considering a suspension problem. It's not a universal rule, but it's pretty consistent. A hydraulic or braking problem is going to be a steady, relatively predictable pull, and if you're trying not to be eaten by a hawk, you're probably looking at a suspension problem. So if when you're driving you get that darty feeling, check your suspension first. And spoiler, we got suspension problems, not braking problems. That's a lot of movement. And when I saw what it was pretty scary. That's why I gave Scotty the keys to my truck, so they could take the time and we can get the right parts to fix this thing. So let me pick this up and show it to you. That is, I don't think it was caused by a loose nut because this is relatively tight to it, but the inside threaded section of our inner or outer tie rod here, gone, shot, ruined. Like, this is not far from these two no longer being friends and an accident. Like, that's impressively bad. Oh, they don't get lighter. I really wish I knew exactly what went wrong there, but doesn't matter. We're gonna do inner and outer tie rods. One reason we're just gonna replace it, it's the fact it's been wallowing around so much. There's no point in risking that safety. Now, one thing to remember, if you're doing inner and outers, you still need to get your boot off. So you may be tempted to just rip this whole thing apart off as one unit, inside and outside. But if you do that, you're then gonna have to go to the bench to break these two apart. You may not be as lucky as I am here in the South, where rust is not a common thing. You may live in one of those states where you're gonna deal with a whole lot of rust. So while things are kind of locked together, you'd want to get them loose. But in this particular case, they're already pretty loose, so. Also make sure, if you need to reuse your tie rod, don't do this. But obviously, we're replacing it, so I don't care how those threads survive. This is just peculiar. So what went wrong? Like, those threads weren't destroyed. You guys ever seen this? I mean, I know Toyota's had a lot of recalls for ball joints and things, but this one's a little new on me. All right, before removal, 1 3/16. Really like these Icon adjustable pliers. 1 3/16. So looking at this, we maybe could have just done an outer, but again, think about your passengers. We'll jump in sketchy stuff, but you gotta take care of the family. Oh no. Well, we're gonna still do our tie rods, but it's starting to get a inner steering rack leak. So remember, on your flats, you got the retainer, folds up and over. Make sure you knock that back. Oh, there we go. Well, not shot yet. That inner joint was getting pretty wiggly. In my worst Eric O impression, we got ourselves the AX07035. Import direct from O'Reilly Auto Parts. I think that's what he does. South Main Auto. Love watching his stuff. If you're not familiar, you should take a look. But make sure you come back here too. Click. It's a special set of pliers I got. All right, fold our ears back down. Alright, will you be nice and pop back on? That's the magic. If not, zip tie it in. Come on. There we go. That's good. 1 3/16. So, and then you're gonna partner that with an ER-02020 outer tie rod. Get it mounted back up, and then we do that one more time. Then we go for a drive, and hope all that work we did works. Do I snap my fingers and just start driving? Does that? Yeah, let's do that. Oh, get comfortable. She's creeping along pretty good. Let's give it a drive and try to get through some adaptations.
That's mildly discouraging. Drive is a whole lot better, but... Oh, I can't believe I just gotta move all that junk. He's got to back up a hill every morning, so now that trans is hopefully actually behaving better, some of those adaptations may be a little off. We may just need to go through and fully reset them all. See how, again, it behaves driving forward or not. Brakes feel good. Oh, well, that's not good. We are going to limp back and reset. So we fixed and did a lot, but I cannot believe it. Well, I don't know what to say other than complete and absolute and total fail. Waited too long to try to upgrade this valve body and keep it from killing itself. Well, as you can tell by whatever portion of that test drive Dwayne includes, we fixed the brakes and we fixed the suspension pole. And that's about it. The timing of this transmission failure is unreal. I'm going to say right now, if you have an A750 F or E in your car, truck, SUV, get the Transgo kits now. Because these are very robust transmissions until they're not. And one of the biggest problems is the lifetime fluid. The oil does not last forever. The way they're designed and how precise everything is, you start losing a lot of pressure and you force a lot of slip early. I kind of figured because it was such an intermittent problem before that we were going to be good to go replacing the one bad solenoid and doing the shift kit. Unfortunately, it went on too long and broke the transmission. So, we got to wrap the episode. And I'm talking with Scotty. We're trying to come up with the best course of action. He has got one of the rotten frame Forerunners that does have the same transmission. Works perfectly. We can move our shift kit valve body into that one. Get this running for $500 plus a torque converter. I can get a soft parts and seals kit. Maybe rebuild this one. The problem, neither of us have time for it. This was just going to be, again, a quick put brake pads on it, but as cars do, they never brake when it's convenient for you. Now, why am I saying transmission needs a rebuild? Well, we were getting codes before, and those codes are gone. And the first gear, second gear, and going, I think, third gear, it's hard to tell because it starts getting really weird. Its driving characteristics are improved. Off camera, I did some pressure checks and things like that. They're working good down low. Our soft parts, clutches, they're what has gone bad. And Toyota has a really good diagnostic flowchart showing all the different clutches in the transmission and what gears use them in application. So the fact that reverse is slipping, we do have it, but it slips, and we basically don't have high gears. In reverse, our electronic solenoids, S1 will be on, as well as SL2. And then when we look at our clutches and brakes and all of those parts, we can go on a little bit further and see clutch 3 should be on, brake 1 will be on, brake 4 is on, and one-way clutch F1. Why this stuff is important is it's going to help you diagnose what's wrong. So, reverse is kind of acting up, and our high gears are acting up. So we want to see what also applies to those other gears, because we can then look and drive first gear. It uses clutch 1 through all of them, first through fifth, but not in reverse.
So that tells us, most likely, because first gear and second gear, you can hammer it down, doesn't slip. Clutch 1 is going to be good, but doesn't matter because it's not used in reverse. Clutch 2 is used in fourth, but we also don't have reverse, so probably clutch 2 is okay. This is just to help you guys further diagnose when you're looking at these problems. Now, these style of flow charts exist for almost every transmission out there. So, like any diagnostic step, you take what you know is good, and it's going to help you narrow down on what you need to look at specifically. Again, in this case, it's more or less a wholesale. All of our soft parts are showing some wear, but we're mostly worn. Like, what is our biggest worn out part? So if we then drop down into third gear, which is a little bit iffy, we see that is the first gear to also use clutch 3. Fourth gear technically has clutch 3 engaged, but Toyota is really good. It tells us while it's engaged, it really doesn't matter for the application and operation of fourth gear. So maybe clutch 3 is on the fence, but we can then scroll over and know that because we definitely have no fifth gear, no overdrive, we do also see overdrive uses brake 1 as well. So that lets us put our focusing lens on clutch 3 or brake 1 when we would get this transmission completely apart to rebuild it. And our improvements are helping, but we waited too long. So our electronics, most likely good. We just, unfortunately, have a worn out transmission. So all of that to say, I don't know what we're doing next. Scotty needs to get this back. We need to figure out what is going to be the quickest way to do it. I hate not fixing stuff, you know? Yes, I guess it's an ego thing. I'm usually a pretty good mechanic. I can figure stuff out pretty well. This was one where I was secretly inside worried we were going to see this outcome, but maybe overly optimistic. We'll see what happens next. I probably, honestly, won't make a follow-up video on this. It's just one where you need to get a car fixed, and tell me if I'm wrong. Just seeing me pull out and replace a used transmission, maybe not, but if enough of you say you want to see it, we'll film it too. But, you know, it be that way sometimes. We do our best, and the cars are going to fight back. But I've got a lot of questionable builds to get working on. I have drift cars. I have my dream muscle car. I have my friend's Ferrari truck. I would love to get back to them running on a Toyota V8. But that is it. Hopefully you did learn a little bit. I really hope if you have one of these transmissions, be proactive. Get the shift kits into it, and you're going to save the transmission. It's going to save you from headaches down the road, and you're not going to be in a position like we are right now with an unfortunately worn out transmission that could have been prevented. I'm Jared, reminding you guys to always make multiple choices, and don't be afraid to help your friends, because good friends are hard to find. See you next time.